In this video, I'm going to show you how to make $378,000 a year as a SAM.gov consultant. I'm also going to show you how the students in our GovClose certification program went from no experience in government contracting to landing high salaried government contracting positions in companies, as well as their first consulting clients. Step number one is you actually have to learn the expertise of government contracting. Okay? Forget everything you've heard about middleman strategy. Forget anything you've heard from anyone that said this was easy, because it is not. It's complicated. That's why there's such an opportunity here. The U.S. government's the single biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world. Less than 1% of small businesses sell to the government, yet 23% of spending goes to small businesses. And the number of businesses selling to the government is decreasing. What that means for you and I, as consultants and working for companies, so we have an opportunity not only to help companies that aren't even looking at the government win contracts, but we can also land those high-paying salary jobs, because not many people understand how to sell to the government. So that's number one. So number one, we need to know what we're talking about. How do you go about learning the government contracting expertise? Well, there's a few ways you can do this, right? Certainly, there are programs out there. I believe there are master's programs you could take. You can review things on your own, like the Federal Acquisitions Regulation. You can watch our videos and study there, or you can go through a more formalized program, like we have the GovClose certification. Now that's a rigorous program, and it is something that is not for everybody, but you have to learn your expertise somehow. Some people learn by getting a job in the government and working as a contracting specialist or working in a government organization and getting trained by the government on putting companies on contract. Now, I, for instance, spent 20 years in the Air Force. I was an acquisitions officer, so I was trained extensively on how to do this. And then I managed over $82 billion in contracts. So I learned a thing or two during my time, but only to say there's a lot going on here. You need to really make sure you understand the law, the regulations, the policies, then actually what works from a company's perspective, right? And so that's how we boil it down for you, right? So we want to be crystal clear and how we're going to sell to the government. So number two, if you want to be able to win multiple clients as a freelance consultant, helping them with government contracting. And by the way, when we talk about the title, SAM.gov consultant, SAM.gov equals government contracting. That's what we're talking about here. So if you want to be able to help companies sell to the government, whether you're a sales executive or a consultant, not only do you have to have the expertise, but you now need to be able to look at the federal data that's publicly available and build a sales plan for these companies. And when I say that, you need to know who buys what the company sells. How much are they buying? What are the exact offices? How much competition are there? What contract vehicles does the office use? And who are their competitors? Because you can reverse engineer what's worked for their competitors. So number two, I call it the roadmap. Number two, roadmap. You have to be able to develop a roadmap or sales pipeline based on actual facts and federal data. Okay, remember, it takes a long time to close a contract. So we need to be able to accurately target the right offices, influence opportunities, win those contracts. So that's number two. So Rick, it sounds like there's a lot to learn here, policy, regulations. I feel like I'm going to get lost in it. So how do we get around that? Well, the way that I vector our students in GovClose is to help them develop a niche. So we teach the basics, expertise, how to build a roadmap, but then what's your niche going to be? Some people's niche is identifying companies that would benefit from the GSA contract vehicle. That's not everyone, by the way. That needs to be based on data, which we teach them how to do. But applying for that contract is actually pretty difficult. Some people's niche is writing proposals. So you can focus on one thing and be really good at it. Some people focus on writing SBIR proposals. And if you don't know what that is, it's okay. We teach it in the course. We also have free YouTube videos on it. You could also focus on something like cybersecurity certification in government contracting. There literally are hundreds, if not thousands of things that you could focus on as a niche. So if we focus on a niche and get really good at that one thing, a couple of things happen there. One is you understand it and you can learn that. And relatively quickly, you can become a subject matter expert in that niche. But more importantly is you can sell your services a lot easier if you are focused. So you don't do everything for everyone. I help software companies with their cybersecurity standards and government contracts. I help woman-owned small businesses sell accounting services to the Department of Justice. I mean, it could be anything, right? So that's number 3, is going to be develop a niche. Very important. Step number 4 in all of this, in learning about government contracting and winning those clients, making that $378K a year, we're getting closer there, is I need to be able to find leads, okay? Government contracting leads for companies that I'm helping or for a company that I'm working for. And when we talk about these leads, and this is the big difference between what we talk about in this program and you're going to hear other places, we don't look at solicitations. If it's an RFP or an RFQ, you're too late. We live in the market research phase. That's where we find leads. So we find leads before a solicitation ever comes out. So we're going to find early leads. That is step number 4. There's lots of ways to find early leads. We actually teach this in not only the certification program, but we teach it for free on our YouTube videos. Just go watch the YouTube videos for free. I'm not the only one that teaches how to find early leads, by the way. So there are a few really great people out there that you can look at. There's some good podcasts as well you can check out. We have a podcast. By the way, like and subscribe to this video so people actually see it, please. And by the way, commenting on this video is huge. That will help a lot. Actually, let's give you some incentive, right? So right now I charge $600 an hour to consult with a company. If someone wants to hire me by the hour, I usually don't recommend this. I will have a free consultation with somebody watching this video if you leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know your name, what kind of business you want to either start or get into, what you want help with. First 100 comments, I will choose one of you for free consultation. So let's hit that. Okay, once you learn how to find leads before the solicitation, it is critical that you know how to manage a pipeline of leads for government contracting. There are a lot of CRM products out there. You've probably seen the one that I developed. By the way, I don't sell my CRM. I use it for clients. I developed it for clients that I worked with because they were either using like a Salesforce or HubSpot or spreadsheets, even worse, that did not have the steps that you need to go through to close a government contract. So there's typically between 18 and 22 steps, depending on what strategy we're using, but you need to know what those steps are, how to close, and you need to be able to manage multiple opportunities in a pipeline. So you don't need our bespoke CRM for government contracting. You can build this yourself. You can, even if you're using a spreadsheet, I don't like that, but if you know the steps to closing a contract, you can build that because you need a way to make sure every opportunity is hitting all of the steps. Now, our CRM right now, the only people that get it are my clients or the students that go through the GovClose certification program. Once they're certified, they get the CRM. So that's number 5. You need to be able to build and manage a pipeline of leads that will actually close in government contracting, much different than any other sales pipeline. Okay, so if I have developed my government contracting expertise and I know how to find leads early and I know how to manage a pipeline and I have a niche that I've developed, a focus area, so I can learn everything I need to about that focus area, put myself out there. I also can build a roadmap, right, for any company, right? If you've been through our training, you could certainly do that. Once you understand this, now, how do you take that expertise and actually do something with it? The reason businesses fail is not because they have a bad offering, typically. It's because they don't know how to sell. They spend all their time building something or working on their website or focusing on the wrong thing. And they've never even tried to sell the product or service that they intended to. Selling is what equals revenue. You have to be able to sell. And that is the next step. So for instance, in the GovClose certification, just to bring it back to me, what we do is we teach the expertise. If all I did was teach our students expertise, there's no way that they would be getting the results that they're getting because they're only learning part of it, right? Once they have the expertise, and it's hard, right? I make sure they're doing roadmaps. I'm critiquing them and sending them back. They're building pipelines. They're finding leads. They're learning advanced strategies, but all that's for nothing if they cannot sell. So you need to, and this is step 6, you need to start a business and learn how to sell. And we talked about learning how to sell to the government, but selling B2B, which is what you would be doing as a consultant, is step 6. So we need to actually now take that expertise in the form of an offer and sell that to companies. Okay. Now, to get a little bit more specific, right? We talked about, let me get my calculator out here just to make sure that I don't have anybody in the comments saying, hey, how do I actually get to 378K a year? Okay. This is how I did it, right? And I was up around, that was about my first full year of consulting. Was actually, I think it was a little bit more than 378K that year. But if you're full time, you could certainly get to this number, just consulting. That does not include getting a salaried position with another company, which is even more lucrative. So when I say learn how to sell, let's take one of the products that I'm selling. I sell an initial project. This is what my students are doing as well. You sell an initial project to a company. That might be helping them understand government spending for their niche. That might be writing a proposal. That might be doing a roadmap or a strategy for them. That might be doing an assessment, right? There's a lot of things that we could sell as an initial project, but to another business, let's say that your first one, and on average, especially when I first started, it was about $4,500. So I sell a $4,500 project. Now, a certain amount of those initial projects turn into clients that are also paying me roughly $4,500 a month for the services that I'm providing. Again, I've done other videos on this. I don't work for commissions. We only work for a fee, and we never charge by the hour. This is an expertise that's in demand. If you actually take the time to learn it, especially if I verify that you've learned it, you don't work by the hour. You work for your expertise because you bring value, and the value you bring is money, right? So by yourself, you can accumulate 5 consulting clients that are paying you monthly. We first sell them an initial project. A certain percentage of those are going to turn into clients that pay you monthly to help them execute a sales plan or write proposals or do some contracting actions. Again, there are a lot of different niches. You got to pick the one that you want to be in. If I have 5 clients that are paying me $4,500 a month, that is $22,500 a month. Now, on top of that, as a consultant or a freelancer working this SAM.gov thing, just like the title, right? How do you make a certain amount of money as a SAM.gov consultant? Well, this is how you do it. So you have the 5 clients paying you $4,500 a month, but you have to keep selling these initial projects because as a consultant, your clients will turn over. Now, in the big world of consulting, the standard, I believe, is 3 months is how long an average client lasts. My experience in government contracting is they last a lot longer than that. So when you hear me say it takes 6 to 18 months to sell to the government, it does. And it can take a lot longer than that. But for a consultant, that's a good thing because you need to be honest with the companies you're working for. And if you approach and give them a solid sales plan, they know it's going to take them 6 months, a year. So my average client, in some cases, lasts well over a year because we are winning contracts for them. And it takes a year in some cases to do that. And then you win contracts, they want to keep you on to win more contracts, right? So long way of saying, I'm going to have 5 consulting clients each month, and I have to sell these initial offers as well. So I'm probably selling 2 of them because now I have 5 clients. I'm busy. I'm running my business, but I have to keep selling and doing at least a couple of these initial projects a month. So if I do 2 more at $4,500 a month, that's another $9,000. So plus $9,000, that's $31,500 a month times 12 equals 378. 378. No, you can't see that. Can you see that? I don't even know, but it equals $378,000. Okay. I need another sip of the iced coffee here. I'm very thankful for Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. So I'm highly caffeinated now. We've got steps 1 through 5 on the board, and we just talked pretty ad nauseum about step 6, which is you actually have to have a business. So if you're going to do this, if you're going to be a consultant, you need your own business. You can't do, there are situations where you can get paid as a 1099. You don't have your own business. And if that's here and there, I still don't recommend it, but you can do it. I know people do it. Talk to your accountant, talk to a lawyer. But if you're doing what I'm talking about, you need a business and you need insurance. And I get into that in other videos. I get into it wickedly in depth in the GovClose certification, because I'm showing them how to start a business, how to take care of all of the prerequisites. And then of course, how do you actually sell? You need to get leads. This is how we get leads. This is how we close those leads. This is how we do consultation. That's number 6. You got to have a business. You got to be able to sell the expertise that you worked so hard to learn. Now, I mentioned a bonus. Now, the bonus to this is that the salaried positions in government contracting, and typically we're talking about account executive positions, senior account executive positions, talking about business development positions. These are high paying sales jobs. I think they're the highest paying sales jobs that there are. We always hear about like software and pharmaceuticals, but I'm telling you, selling for the government, these contracts are so big that if you're with a good company, good solid company, look, running a business, it's not for everybody, right? So if you're listening to me, if you're listening to this still, and you're interested in government contracting, you have to be, if you're listening to this. The question you're going to end up asking yourself is, do I want to run a business because there's a certain amount of risk there? Or do I want a salaried position? Am I looking for the security of a salaried position with a big company? Look, I've done both. And I did both at the same time. And some of my students are doing that too. But what you can do is you can dabble in both to kind of make up your mind. But again, running a business isn't for everybody. So the salaried position, what you're doing essentially is selling for that company. They're selling whatever they have to the government. Oh, you're getting paycheck, right? You're getting health care insurance. And a good salaried account executive job is going to have a few things. First of all, the salary, if you're just starting out, if you're absolutely a beginner, even there, like if you've been through my program, I tell guys like at a minimum, I want to see 120 to 150 grand a year as a salary plus a commission. Okay. But as you go through the ranks, I know people that very easily clearing over $200,000, $250,000 a year as you get a bit more experience. I know some people that are taking $400,000 a year salaries. They're usually not getting a commission, but depending on how good you are, your track record, that position can absolutely go up there. It is a high paying salary job and there's nothing wrong with it. If you want the security that brings and also some credibility, right? So you may be new at this, like, Jacob and Ivan, guys in their 20s that have been through the GovClose certification program. Both of them recently landed jobs in big companies. One of them is a big company. One of them, I would say, is a middle-sized company. But amazing jobs in the technology they're working with, selling to the government for not having any experience. How did they land that job? Well, I'll tell you. They went through our certification program. And after they learned the expertise, right? So you can learn the expertise. You can do this. You just want to follow a focused, regimented path. And when they walk into a job interview and there's 50 other applicants, guess who the only person is in that interview process that can say to that company, hey, company X, this technology that you sell, this is how much of it the government buys every year. These are the top 3 offices that buy it. I don't just mean Air Force, Army, Department of Energy. I mean, this is the name of the office and the name of the program manager that runs the office. This is how they buy it. They use these contract vehicles. They use blanket purchase agreements. They use, IDIQs that they've put together themselves, broad area analysis, whatever it is. They know how to do that because they look it up. These are your top competitors. These are who they're selling to. And then they can reverse engineer that process. So if you hire me, CEO of company X, what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the top 3 offices that buy what you sell. I'm going to find opportunities early. This is how I'm going to do that. And then you need to do, and he'll have a checklist. You need to do these 3 things. You're not doing them right now. In fact, if they've been selling to the government, hey, you're not even selling to the office that buys most of the things that you sell. That's very powerful. And by the way, that can eliminate so much spending and time wasted for a company. If you can go in and streamline that process, right? In fact, a lot of people will go in as a consultant because it's easy to sell to a company when you have that information. And you really do drive value and can help them win contracts and save money. That makes you a very valuable asset. And so what happens often is you start off as a consultant. This is what happened to me. And then you get offered a full-time position. And when you start off that way, you might be surprised what that full-time position actually entails for you, right? There's a lot of leeway you now have because you're an authority, you're a SME, and you're going to be looked at a little bit differently if you do end up in that salaried position. So you got the 6 steps for selling to the government. You can always check out govclose.com, check out our CRM training. And if that's not for you, and for most of you, it probably won't be, just like, subscribe, comment on our YouTube videos, which are all free. So we try to get the word out there. I want to see more people, more good people in government contracting, more businesses, more account executives, more salespeople, more consultants. Learn the process, learn a niche, and learn it better than anybody else. Bring value to the companies that you serve. Bring value to the government if you happen to be selling to the government. And hey, if your comment is one of the first 100, then I will pick one of you and give you a free consultation. We'll talk about whatever